the Yingluck 2 government is facing at least 5 key downside risks, which could lead to its downfall, according to analysts and opinion surveys. Attempts to amend the 2007 Constitution on Article 112 of the Criminal Code or the lèse-majesté law are the top 2 risks which could befall the government because they are politically explosive issues. The rising cost of living, which has hit the grassroots population, and the labor movement's demands for the government to raise the daily minimum wage to 300 baht nationwide, as well as the private sector's growing concern over the government's inability to solve economic problems, are among the other major risks. According to Assumption University's latest opinion survey on the government's performance during its first 6 months, the top issues include constitutional amendment, lèse-majesté law amendment, nepotism, and etc. The survey also shows that respondents are satisfied with the government's performance on cracking down their narcotics trade, but they are unhappy about the rising cost of living due to higher prices of oil and cooking gas as well as other necessity products. Regarding the 300 baht per day minimum wage, Manat Goson, chairman of the Federation of Labor Organizations in Thailand, has warned that workers will stage a rally if the government failed to honor its election promise of raising the daily minimum wage to 300 baht from the current 212 to 230 baht per day. He said the rising cost of living and higher oil prices are major concern. The government will be in trouble if it could not solve the people's economic problems.
Like we've just talked to the Iranian ambassador to Thailand a while ago, that the oil price has been rising and it's a big worry for everyone.
Yeah.
And now back home, the worry of the new energy minister, Arak plans an early revision of the overall energy price structure. Speaking upon taking office yesterday, he said his urgent tasks include revising the pricing structure before February 16, which is the date the second round of fuel price hikes is due to take place. The first round took place this month. Arak said the ministry would conduct a study of the actual cost of natural gas for vehicles or NGV, liquefied petroleum gas or LPG, and other energy prices, as well as the trend in crude oil prices. He added that he could not yet say whether the price of NGV and LPG for the transport sector would be raised further on February 16. He did say the ministry would quickly complete the study of the overall price structure and present the findings for consideration by the National Energy Policy Council, which is chaired by the Prime Minister. He added that he had to listen to people's opinions before recommending any changes in the structure, as the public was a major stakeholder in the ministry's policies. He gave an assurance that one policy that would definitely be continued was the ministry's provision of discount coupons worth 2,000 baht to aid flood victims. The second round of coupon distribution would take place from February 10th to 20. The minister said he would also study the pros and cons of the planned cancellation of 91-octane petrol on the market this coming October, adding that there was still time to consider the appropriateness of implementing such a measure, which had been proposed by his predecessor. He will also study the structure and objective of the oil fund to decide whether it needs to borrow to continue its subsidization of energy prices. Although the fund has a negative cash flow of 15 billion baht, he added that it has to continue subsidizing LPG and NGV prices. The ministry will also conduct a study of the actual cost of diesel, which is retailed at 30 baht per liter. If the actual cost is higher than 30 baht, its price should be floated, he said. The minister said that regarding electricity policy, his ministry would examine the remaining fuel reserve for electricity generation and consider the pros and cons of coal-fired power plants. Regarding the finance ministry's idea to sell 2% of its PTT to the Wayupak Fund, he said the energy minister had to study the issue carefully before taking a position.
According to economists, the central bank's policy rate cut and its plan to collect more premiums from banks could lead to deposit rates being cut sharply. There is a chance that many depositors would in turn pull their money out of banks and seek new investment tools. The Bank of Thailand's Monetary Policy Committee yesterday cut the policy interest rate by 0.25 percentage point from the 3.25% to 3%. Banks are expected to follow suit and trim their deposit rates. The Bank of Thailand Assistant Governor said the MPC assessed that inflationary pressure remains contained while the headwinds from the global economy continue to pose risks to Thailand's economic growth. He said the private sector confidence was improving but remained fragile in the post-flood period. Sompop Manarangsan, president of the Payapiwat Institute of Technology, said banks were now likely to cut deposit rates. The rate cut should therefore help accelerate the return of economic activity to normal levels. The MPC voted unanimously to reduce the policy rate, he added. Moreover, the central bank's plan to collect more premiums from commercial banks for debt repayment of 1.14 trillion baht owed by the Financial Institutions Development Fund would put more pressure on banks to opt for deep cuts in their deposit rates. Sompop said the bank's deposit rates will adversely affect depositors who have already suffered from a negative interest rate return of about 1.5%. He added that the fact that the Deposit Protection Agency will guarantee depositors for up to only 1 million baht per bank from this coming August will also encourage savers to pull their funds out of banks. Sompop said while the central bank was now less concerned about inflationary pressure, the future was unpredictable and high inflation could return if fund managers were to speculate on commodities such as oil. Pisit Seri Viwathana, Senior Executive Vice President of the Government Savings Bank, said banks were likely to cut both deposit and lending rates following the MPC's move. He said the global interest rates were also on a declining trend due to subdued inflation. He added that his bank would decide next week on any changes to its deposit and lending rates.
And on this topic, let's talk live to the President of Deposit Protection Agency or DPA, คุณสิงหนิกรพันธ์ สวัสดีครับ คุณสิงห
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ คุณสิงห
Yes, คุณสิงห now that the Tom Yum Gung debt has been transferred to the Bank of Thailand, now the burden will now be on the commercial banks and the depositors. So can you please clarify this implementation of the transfer of this debt?
For now, I have not seen the new decree as yet.
Yes.
So there would be a lot of things still moving in the newspaper. So it's very difficult to say. But in the tone, I think the move is now for the government to transfer the burden of the debt servicings to the Bank of Thailand.
Yes, of course.
In which in several ways that the Bank of Thailand would get the money to pay that interest payment. One would be coming from the reduced part of the DPA charge. And another would be a premium over that charge. And also the newly implemented charge would be on the bill of exchange, which the financial institutions has been lately increased the amount quite significantly.
Yes. Kun Singha, can you discuss a little bit on the impacts onto the depositors? How are they suffering from this move?
The impact has not yet known. It depends on the supervisions of the Bank of Thailand to see that the commercial bank would not transfer one-to-one to the depositors because the spread of the bank is still very large. at this moment.
I see.
But as a sudden, to all the Thai taxpayers, it is a sudden drop of the burden that every of the taxpayer has been, taking it for very long, over 10 years already.
I see. And with the deposit fee rising from 0.4 to 1%, what effect does this raise have on the banking institution itself?
We don't know for sure. I heard from the paper as well that there's still a negotiation between the Bank of Thailand and the Thai Banker Associations, which another meeting would take place on the 30th, the end of this month.
Okay, so is there any scenario that you could predict that could happen from happening?
We have no idea, but the one thing for sure should be that the Bank of Thailand would get the most appropriate increased for banks to survive and still be competitive. While the amount that the Bank of Thailand is getting would have to be very close to the interest payment that is going to be onward.
Okay. So what is your perspective? How would the management of deposits look like from now on? How do we brace ourselves? Now, how would the help from the DPA look like?
Well, the mandate of the DPA would remain the same. We have to see that the financial institution systems remain stable, and we are the organizations established under the Act. And we have a very clear profile to do certain things. And I don't think there would be any change. As you probably noticed in the same environment as our institutions worldwide, very often that the fund were running into the negative zone, but that doesn't disrupt the ability of the fund to carry on the guarantee of the depositors.
I see. Well, Kun Singha, thank you for joining us in the Business Report today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye.
Yes, sir. Goodbye.